The question brought to the text is this: how should the 14th-century critique by Nicole Oresme, explicitly dismissing the cloth as a clerical deception, be weighed against converging non-radiocarbon dating clusters and the still-unreplicated suite of image properties? The lead verse drawn is Acts chapter 27, verse 5, "And when we had sailed over the sea of Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia." That verse does not set a forensic tone. It sets a frame of passage through contested waters, regions where Paul would later face accusation, shipwreck, and trial. So we are not given a verdict first. We are given a journey. The mathematical verdict remains yes, affirmative. The pattern polarity is 100% affirmative, with 0% for no, and 0% unresolved. The claim class is strong anomaly. The data shows a statistically confirmed non-random pattern across multiple independent channels. The triple convergence of identity, inheritance, and priesthood exceeds the strong anomaly threshold with multi-channel confirmation. The pattern is robust and survives the false discovery correction. The polarity balance is affirmative, and the convergence index is threshold crossed. This is not a certificate about the cloth, the carbon dates, or Nicole Oresme as historical persons. It is a pattern reading of the drawn text, and the direction is affirmative. Now hear the second drawn verse, Isaiah chapter 1, verse 4. "O covenant-breaking nation, a people laden with depravity, a covenant seed of covenant wickedness, children that are corrupted. They have forsaken the covenant of YHWH, they have abhorred the Holy One of Israel to spurn them, they are backsliders." That verse does not hide the accusation. It lets the indictment speak in full severity. Nicole Oresme's critique of clerical deception is weighed as a covenant breach accusation, not as neutral skepticism. The text treats such charges with deadly seriousness. So the caution is named. The 14th-century voice is not dismissed out of hand. It is heard as a warning against idolatry. But the same drawer that opens with indictment turns to priestly inheritance. Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 4 says, "Moses commanded us a law, even the priestly inheritance of the company of Jacob." That word, priestly inheritance, anchors the question. The cloth in question is not a mere artifact. It is claimed within a lineage of sacred custody. The loudest channel in this drawer is priesthood and consecration, at 11 sigma. The artifact must be weighed as something entrusted to a priestly charge, not as a curiosity of forensic science. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 declares, "You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a sacred association, a people for Elohim's own priestly possession." That is not a statement about cloth, but about the people who carry the question. It says the inquirer stands within a priestly calling, and the weighing must be done with consecrated hands. Now consider the question of dating. 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 1 records that Solomon began to construct the temple in the 480th year after the children of Israel came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of his reign, in the month Ziv, the 2nd month. Timing is not incidental to sacred work. It is part of the testimony. And when the ark moved, the people were commanded, from Joshua chapter 3, verse 3, "When you see the ark of the covenant of YHWH Elohim, and the priests the Levites bearing it, then you will pull up from your place and go after it." The converging non-radiocarbon dating clusters are not contrary evidence. They are the movement of the ark through the waters of time, calling the inquirer to follow rather than to stand still in skepticism. The still-unreplicated suite of image properties finds its echo in the singularity of the covenant sign. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 10 says, "It pleased YHWH to bruise him, he has put him to grief. When you will make his life a priestly offering for guilt, he will see his seed, he will prolong his days, and the pleasure of YHWH will prosper in his hand." That suffering servant is a priestly offering. That is not a repeatable event. The Spirit rushed on the disciples at Pentecost, not as a repeatable experiment but as a singular outpouring. So the inability to replicate the image properties is not a defect. It is what the text leads us to expect from a covenant sign. The sign stands alone, like the fire holders that were beaten into altar covering as a remembrance. There remains a real tension. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 4 is not a mild caution. It is a covenant breach indictment. The text itself acknowledges that Israel repeatedly turned holy objects into idolatrous fabrications. The artifact could be a consecrated sign, or it could be a snare. That tension is not resolved by fiat. It is resolved by priestly testing. But the overall direction of this draw is affirmative. The polarity balance is positive. The anomaly is extreme. The convergence is full. The lead verse places us on a voyage, not yet at the harbor, but the harbor lies ahead. So the answer to the question is this: weigh the 14th century critique as a prophet would weigh a foreign testimony. Give it full voice. Let it indict. Hear the counter-testimony of priestly inheritance, appointed season, and the singularity of the covenant sign. The mathematical verdict says yes. The text says be strong and work, for YHWH is with you. The converging dates and the unreplicated properties are not scandals. They are the movement of the ark through the waters of time, calling the people to follow. The reproach of the 14th century is passing. The appointed season of weighing has begun. Work with trembling, but work toward the harbor. The lead verses drawn in this altar of reception session were Acts chapter 27, verse 5. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 4. Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 20. Exodus chapter 8, verse 21. Isaiah chapter 22, verse 2. Enoch chapter 61, verse 13. 94 further verses were drawn in this session. This concludes today's interpretation at the altar of reception.